Just a disclaimer here before this video starts. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video do not represent any thoughts and opinions that are of the other members of VIPs that were at the Deeproot tour. With that being said, let's talk about some stuff that no one else is. What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel where I talk and do everything pinball. So if that sounds interesting to you, then hit that subscribe button down below. I feel I'm not sick, but if I sound differently, it's because my sinuses are all kinds of out of whack right now. I guess it's the change of seasons. I don't know. But either way, I have got the email and list of things that I can and cannot discuss. So I'm going to make sure that I'm abiding by the rules here. So according to this, then I can discuss a lot of other things that no one else is talking about. My goal in this video is to answer a lot of questions I've seen via Facebook, personal messages, Pinside, stuff like that. So I'm hoping to give you guys some closure, and I believe that is the main issue here when it comes to a lot of you and Deeproot, is that you're not getting the full story. You're not getting a lot of the details, and some of us just need that bit of closure. So let's start from the very beginning. Why were the 6 of us chosen? Well, first of all, there was more than just 6, but there are others that were not able to attend due to various reasons. Kaneda was supposed to go back when they were having it in March, but then COVID blew up and it got worse, and so he declined being able to attend this time around. And I want to say the Poor Man's Pinball podcast, I believe one or both of them were invited, but they were unable to attend also. Now, there may have been others, but those are the other 2 that I know of that have publicly announced that they were invited but declined. Now, why we were selected, I can only assume they didn't tell us why, except that, basically we are well-known personalities, but I believe a little bit of that is handpicked by Steve Bowden, and that is going by his conversations with certain people while we were there, particularly Colin, because he's a tournament player. So Colin's not real well known in the pinball media, but he's very well known in playing pinball in a tournament, and Steve Bowden is right up there, and they're really good friends. So I believe, I can't say this is for sure, that he is primarily invited due to his mental thoughts on tournament style stuff. So he was going to be able to give his insights and opinions and feedback to Steve when it came to the tournament style whole thing with Raza. But now that I think about it, each one of us 6 brought something to the table. And you have Crystal, that's very savvy on parts in pinball and a good tournament player. When she plays pinball, you better stay back because she's very energetic and aggressive. Cracks me up when she plays. You have Lawrence with Backbox Pinball Podcast, and her primary audience is the women in this hobby. And I definitely do not have female followers because I can show you my analytics, and barely 0.5% of the people that watch my content are female. So that rules me out on gathering that portion of the people in this hobby. But I am savvy when it comes to the engineering and technical stuff and how the machine is put together and built. That is where my more savviness comes into play. Then you have Chris, that was the correspondent for the Pinball Network or Pinball Show, so he was mainly there for journalistic purposes, but after getting to know him through the weekend, he definitely had a little bit more knowledge than my original assumption was. He is new to the hobby, but he wasn't just there because he was, invited kind of thing. So that was good to get to know him better over the weekend. Then you had Jeff Patterson, obviously, who's with This Week in Pinball. He is in my opinion, the almighty when it comes to journalism for this hobby and all the kinds of things that he puts on his website. A majority of everybody else in the hobby that does media stuff gets their info from his website. I don't know where a lot of us would be when it came to what's going on in this hobby without Jeff. But I think partially the reason why we were picked, at least a good chunk of us, was because we were all pretty native to Texas. And Texas is a very large state, but I want to say 4 out of 6 of us lived in Texas. So that may have been part of it also, I guess, the cost of transportation and everything. And so let's talk about that. Our traveling fees and gas mileage and lodging was paid for by Deeproot. So let's just get that out of the way right now. None of this was on our dime. We were fully reimbursed for our mileage and lodging for that weekend. A lot of people question why we even accepted to go into the factory and sign this NDA, which restricted us from talking about a lot of things. And I can only parallel it to how it was with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where you had a lot of people that did not know what was going inside this building. And people wanted to know, but were unable to, obviously. And then a moment comes up where you're invited into this place, and you will be one of the very first people to see all of these innovations and things and that this person has been talking about and boasting himself up about. And so there's a lot of excitement in this because you're like, man, I'm going to be one of the first to see this. And then once it's over and done with, I'm going to be able to excitedly talk and be joyful about what I've seen over the weekend. I think that's what all of our intentions and expectations were for this weekend at Deeproot, was to go in there, see all these things with Raza, hopefully, fingers crossed, to see a lot of other things. And we were expecting not to be able to talk about those other things like prototypes and stuff like that. That was a given. But we were at least expecting to see a lot of the innovations with Raza, be able to play Raza, and give our feedback and thoughts and everything about it, and just everything was going to be all hunky-dory and perfect. And then we would go home for the weekend, and then once they released their reveal video, then we would be able to openly discuss all that is Raza except for the prototypes. And then things did not go that way, obviously. So let's talk about basically the entire day, how it went down. So we all arrive in the morning, and we are then shown that everything that's about to take place with this reveal is going to be like professionally recorded, like things that you see on television, guys. There was no messing around when it came to what the potential quality of this reveal video was going to be. I mean, when I say the quality, I mean, I knew it was legit whenever we get into a certain position to explain to the camera who we are and stuff like that, that the little clicker came up to the camera. I'm like, all right, scene 1, take 5, blah, 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 whatever, click. And I was like, holy shit, there's a clicker. That means business. But we all go in one at a time. We've all got a wireless mic on the entire day that we are there. And we initially start out by going up to the camera, and an individual would ask us a series of questions, and we would be looking at this person and answer the questions just how they were given to us, kind of thing. So I can't tell you what everyone else's questions were, but I will tell you, like my questions were, what is your name, and how did you get into pinball? What are the things that I like about pinball? What do I feel needs to be changed in pinball? And like, what do I hope to see during my tour of this building? And so I answered all of those, and some of my answers were like, my name is Cary, obviously, and I'm a pinball content creator via YouTube, and I create a channel with Straight Down the Middle. And I discussed how I got into pinball when it came to repairing my first machine, and then became a collector, restore, repair, blah, blah, blah. How I'm describing it to you is actually longer than what it took me to initially say it. But then I go into the things that I'm looking for in pinball is I love the physicality of it. And I said that I believe a lot of manufacturers these days are putting too much time and effort and money into what's on the screen instead of putting things underneath the glass. So I emphasize what I hope to see is more underneath the glass and less on the screen. So once all 6 of us did our initial introductions, then we got taken into the wood cutting area where I guess the cabinets and on a lot of the prototype machine stuff, like the machine shop. That's where we're going to. Okay, so we went into the machine shop area next, and that's where they revealed the PinPod to us. So he goes over the initial cardboard box and how that is, and I was completely on board with that, the cardboard box that they have in mind. I was like, okay, good, I like that. That's actually better than what I've seen other manufacturers do. And then they brought out the PinPod and did the whole tarp pull off kind of thing. And like I said, the way this is being filmed, guys, there are like 3 or 4 cameras and people with like gyros and everything and the lighting and stuff like that to get all of this in real time, to get our initial reactions. And of course, we're all wearing masks, so it's a little bit difficult to get a really good reaction from us. So whenever the PinPod gets first revealed, I mean, obviously we're a little bit taken back because we're just like, whoa, it's a pretty big box kind of thing, you know, compared to the other ones. And so what I was glad to hear is that once he showed us how to put a machine in there, how the box gets put together. Me and Jeff actually built one together. That was all recorded. And I was happy to hear that this PinPod was only an option. So that was good. Yeah, I was like, because I would have definitely been like, hey, I don't think this is a good idea if this is the only way you're going to be doing this. But luckily, it's just an option. So those of you out there that think that that is the only way you're going to get your machine, no, that is just for those of you out there that would like to have this special way to obtain your game as well as be able to use it for other machines in the future. So it's an option out there if you so choose to do that. Actually, I needed to go back here, guys, but before we even did our introductions, we literally went right into the prototype room where we saw a number of machines. Like, I don't even know how many playfields there were now off the top of my head, but there was at least 4 or 5. And he went through every single game and told us what it was, and it had a lot of the hardware on there, and they were on rotisseries. A couple of them were actually in cabinets, and then we got shown a topper to a particular game, and I can say that the topper was in prototype phase, and it was definitely mechanical. It was not just a screen that lit up or whatever. There was going to be implementation of mechanical features on it, and it looked pretty cool at that current state. And then we got brought in, we met John Papaduke, we got to see one of the games that he was working on at that time, a couple of Barry Owls's games, got to see what those games are looking like and the titles for those. And I believe that's when we actually went in to do our introductions with the microphones. So then after the PinPod thing, we kind of perused around there a little bit to get to see a lot of the things that they're making when it comes to metal works and stuff like that. It looks like they're doing that all there, so they're able to replicate all the metal portions inside of Raza. That is only the metal parts that I got to see were the ones that are inside that game. So the rails and the ramps and stuff like that, they're all manufactured on site right there. That's when we got brought into the auditorium. Now, the auditorium, when I say that, don't think of it like, you know, a giant like school auditorium or anything like that. It is probably maybe 1/10 the size of a usual like theater. The same kind of the same kind of seating. So it goes up a little bit. You have to walk upstairs and you can sit all in these chairs. There's probably a total of maybe 30 or 40 chairs in there. And that's when we get shown a lot of other things when it comes to things that they're working on. And that's when he was hinting at, you know, the ability to lift up the glass with the side rails and how they're working on a device for you to be able to do a complete setup on your machine just by yourself, a number of things. That's when he went through a lot of the stuff that is actually in This Week in Pinball, that's when he was going over all those items right there. So once we got done with that portion, I believe it was about lunchtime, so we had our lunch, and that's when I was able to see a Raza machine that was being worked on, and that's when I got to actually see how the rails and the glass came up, and I was like, oh, that's kind of nifty. Okay, it's interesting. Kind of like to see that in action. So then after lunch was done, because they have like a whole bunch of pinball machines there that, we were able to play as well as have lunch and everything like that. So lunch was over. We go back to the auditorium, and that's when we get shown a PowerPoint that goes through pretty much everything that you saw on This Week in Pinball, like all the upcoming games and when they're planning on doing their release and stuff like that. I mean, it was information overload that was just being thrown at us and things that they're working on. And at this point, we still haven't seen Raza yet, actually, like in person up in front of it. So then we get the playfields. So they bring in the playfield that they used at Houston Expo last year, and then they brought in their pin armor, and it's got different art on it. They've made some adjustments to the art, and they showed us the difference between the playfield that they were using compared to the playfield that they're using now. So by dropping these designated pinballs onto the playfield at a certain height, and then the hammer test also took place. Now, as noted in This Week in Pinball's website, there were concerns about the coating on the pin armor, how it wasn't what a lot of us would rather have, a sheet of glass. I do have video footage that I will put here for you to see. I'm hoping that you're able to see the orange peel effect that is stated in This Week in Pinball. Now, it is definitely stated that this is still work in progress. They will be working on this coating in the future for a much more aesthetically pleasing look. So now it's at this point, we're in the afternoon, and we get finally brought in to see the Raza machine that you saw on This Week in Pinball and the videos and stuff like that. It was there. This is where I got to start tiptoeing, guys. There were technical issues. That has definitely been stated on This Week in Pinball. So, with that being said, guys, all of us got to play Raza to an extent. There are technical issues. So that's being said, that maybe those technical issues could be all kinds of variables, whether it be hardware or software. That's all up in the air at this point. But there were definitely technical issues. Let me make sure I'm safe. But yeah, there were technical issues. That's all I can really say that kept us from being able to do what I wanted to do, especially because in a lot of my videos, when it comes to me doing a restoration process or a shop and polish, I have my money shot scene, which is towards the end of the video typically. And like, here's a couple of examples right here. But I wanted to be able to do that type of filming for Raza. But due to the technical difficulties, I was unable to do that type of recording. When it comes to like the back box and stuff like that, there's been a lot of like people talking, bad about it. There's also been those of you that have been talking good about it. Honestly, it's not a big thing for me, but I do have to say that I have seen people do photoshopped revisions of their current back box, and I like those revisions with the photoshopping better. So when it comes to them like getting rid of those gaps on the back box and just kind of like forming it to one solid piece, but still having the nice stainless steel appeal, I liked that Photoshop that someone did on PinPod. That actually looked pretty darn good. Now here's something that I've got to state, guys, is that when it's all said and done, and there's been a lot of you out there that are like, what's so special, or what could have these 6 people, as if we're like some experts or whatever, what could they possibly say that could have made them change their minds? And look, guys, all of us, the 6 of us, would all agree with you. The thing is, we all agree that they could have randomly picked 6 other individuals out there or more. And I'm more than confident that all the things that we spotted and we had concerns about would have been easily spotted by a lot of you as well. Now, why do I think that? Is because by going through PinPod and reading all of the concerns from you people out there, I'm like, yeah, that is a good concern. Very good, because that was one of mine, kind of thing, or whatever. So going through PinPod and Facebook and listening to podcasts, a lot of you out there are hitting nails right on the head. I just can't tell you which nails you're hitting. After we left Deeproot, all of us were a little set back, because we all agreed and we were all hashing back and forth about our concerns and our thoughts about what we saw while we were there. And we were all in agreement that this isn't ready to launch. And the time frame that he stated, we were all like, no, we don't see that being good. And it's one of those things where a lot of us, I believe, were gathering and taking mental notes about what we wanted to say to him, whether it be in person or email, because I felt that, at least me personally, I felt that if I would have brought my concerns up during the whole filming thing, it just wouldn't have looked good. I would have been that guy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let him have this moment, let him do his reveal and everything, and then I'll either talk to him in person or I'll write him an email expressing all of my concerns. And I know me and a couple of others did the same thing as well. We all shared what we were sending, so that way it didn't sound too repetitive. So a lot of the times it was one of those that they would concur with this and stuff like that. And I know a lot of you really wanted this launch to go off well. And I think that's what's affecting a lot of you out there, is that you wanted, a lot of us are rooting for Deeproot, because what's wrong with having more options and more pinball in this world? Nothing. It's just that I believe the issue and the reason why that Robert is getting so much flack for all of this is his attitude, the way it's been over the past few years. I think definitely that weekend, I'm hoping at least, that was a humbling experience for him. And I'm thinking he's starting to note and see that pinball is in fact not easy. I mean, he stated that it was definitely complicated. So I think that's definitely why those of you out there are just rooting and cheering and laughing at their possible failure, because of the attitude that he's had. I think if he would have been very humble out of the gate and just been like, this is what we're hoping to accomplish, we're hoping to, do this, but whenever he was coming out saying this manufacturer's doing it wrong, we're going to do it better, and bullish statements like that, then yeah, you're going to have those of you out there that are going to be like, man, I hope this guy falls on his face. I can understand that. I get it. But whenever you have actually been in this building and you've talked to the people that work there. It was a little bit of a different experience for the rest of us as well. Talking to like Steve Bowden and Quinn, who have all this passion behind these projects that they're hoping to bring to fruition to all of you out there. The designers, Barry Ausler. I didn't really have a long conversation with J-Pop, but the people that I talked to that were working there were so glad that we were there, because I'm thinking that they felt like finally we're going to be able to show the world what we've been working on, and we can start getting games out, moving forward. But when it was all said and done, I felt that from an R&D standpoint, yeah, if we were there to get brought in for R&D purposes, like this is what we're working on and we're going to keep on working on it, there's no set date on when we're going to be doing any kind of production or anything like that, then I think that our reaction and everything would have been like, okay. But whenever we get brought in and they're like, all right, yeah, this is it, but we still have these things that we're working on, but we wanted to start releasing on this date. That's what I think took a lot of us back. Now, I don't know what Robert's next step is and what they're going to be doing next. But like I said, I'm hoping that that weekend was a humbling experience. And I know it's not the way he wanted to unveil what they've been working on all this time, but he's getting a lot of free feedback from all of you out there, good or bad, ugly or beautiful, however you want to say it. But he's getting a lot of feedback. And I think if a lot of you out there gave more constructive feedback, then potentially, yeah, they could be one of the greats. I mean, it's easy to be a keyboard commando and be like, yeah, dude, looks like a fishbowl and they suck, I hope, whatever. But to give constructive feedback and valid reasons behind it, that adds more to it, guys. So compliments to those of you out there that give constructive feedback and are not aggravated that they haven't released anything to you yet. They haven't taken your money, and that's the common defense, and the only saving point for them is that they haven't taken any of your money, except for where people out there, that's a different story, but that's their only saving grace, is that they haven't taken your money yet. So as long as that doesn't happen, I think that overall they're going to be in the safe space where they shouldn't be having too much flack thrown at them. I'm hoping that the information that I provided you here gives you a little bit of closure on certain things. And I know that a lot of the things that you want to hear about, I can't talk about. So you're like, some of your questions are like, why wasn't there this? Why is it taking so long to do this? Whatever. And those are all valid questions, and I would love to answer them openly. For those of you out there that have watched my content long enough, know that this is not easy for me either, guys. Like I said, I wanted to be able to just openly talk about all these great things that I saw, but then I can't. It sucks. This was a big learning experience for me, guys. So when it comes to NDAs, I'm not a big fan of them so far. Hopefully, things change in the future, and I get released from it or whatever, and I'm able to talk more about it. Or maybe they take this time and start really bunkering down and start solving a lot of the concerns that we had and start pumping some games out. And then maybe we can all come out and go, yeah, back in the day before all of this is what we saw, and thankfully they did a 180 and everything's all good now. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I'm ready to move on. So I'm hoping that this is going to be like my last deeproot thing. I've had to turn down a couple of different podcasts because I didn't want to be brought on and talk more about this and then have to keep on saying that I can't talk about this and I can't talk about that. And once again, I don't want to bring anybody else down with me. So I don't want anybody else, podcasters or anything like that, to be guilty by association. So as per usual, I'm hanging myself out here and we're going to see what happens. Other than that, I hope to release this video here soon, and then I'll have new content coming up shortly. I've got a video already done for Straight Down the Middle on how to install a hardtop. I will be starting the Johnny Mnemonic series here pretty soon as well. I've got a lot of that in the can, and I still have to work on more content for the turtles back there as well. But I'm ready to move on. I'm hoping a lot of you out there are ready to move on too. Let's just be patient, guys. I mean, if anything, let's just stop talking about it, kind of thing. It's not going to do you any good. I mean, unless you want to go out there and do more constructive feedback, then by all means, yes. But just shitting on them is not going to solve anything. That's going to wrap up this video, guys. So if you like what you've seen here, give me that thumbs up. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. That way you can be notified of whenever I upload something for your viewing pleasure. And until next time, peace out.